Welcome to Retail Management BUS302. This is our week 3, lecture 2 video. And this week we are talking about retail strategy in the consumer. And in our first video, we talked about the consumer buying decision process that consumers go through. And every consumer does go through those processes. And as they go through that process and evaluate their decision, they are going to end with that post-purchase evaluation. And once again, our goal is to make sure our consumers have a really good experience as they go through the process so that they don't experience cognitive dissonance. Now, part of the way that we can do that and make sure that they have a great experience and things is we can just understand the types of decisions that they're going to be making, right? So it's not just about this understanding the decision-making process, but you need to understand the types of buying decisions that consumers go through, right? So one of the ways that, or one of the types of buying decisions that they go through is an extended problem solving. This is where consumers are going to take a lot of time and an effort just to evaluate their various alternatives, right? So again, my example has been my wife helping me realize I need to go through and buy a new vehicle, right? So this is an extended problem solving decision for me because I'm taking considerable time and effort, right? Because I want to make sure there's a huge performance risk if I buy, if you buy a lemon and everything else, financial risk. This is an expensive, it's an expensive purchase, right? So there's this idea of, is this going to hurt us financially? Is it going to be something we can afford, right? Not so much physiological risk where, something physical or psychological risk, but, there's these different things that can come up in this decision process that a retailer should understand, right? So an extended problem solving. So understanding that there's a lot of things that go into these decision processes, especially extended, that's an important thing. Now, there's also a limited problem solving, right? This is going to be where you're just, you're not taking a lot of time or effort. It's you have some buying experience. Maybe you've done some of this before. It's kind of an impulse buy or maybe just an unplanned purchase, something like that. So you have the limited problem solving, and because again, impulse buying, unplanned purchase, not a lot of time or effort. So this is something might be going out for dinner, trying to decide where you're going to go, impulse, right? So there's not a lot of, what do I feel like tonight, right? So that's a different type of buying decision. And then there's the habitual buying decision, which this one involves little or no conscious effort. It comes down to brand loyalty or retailer loyalty. And when it comes to habitual decision making, one of the things that I mention as an example is in our house, if we have Crest toothpaste. Why? Well, when we need new toothpaste, it's okay, well, we go buy Crest. Why? Because we've always bought Crest. It's brand loyalty. It's what we've always had. Everything else, it's habitual. It's that decision making, and it's not a hard. It's not taking a lot of time or effort, right? So depending on where you're at, these different buying decisions, consumers are going to go through going through the buying process a little differently in each one of these situations. So you need to be aware of them. Right? Now, there's other things that are going to affect your buying process, not just the type of decision, but some things that are going on in the world, right? So the economy, if we're in the middle of a recession where there's uncertainty, people aren't maybe going to want to buy, right, a lot of hedonic products, like those experiential products that just make us feel good for the sake of feeling good, right? So when things are going really, really well in the economy, man, we're willing to splurge and things. We also need to understand that the economy of one country will affect the economy of another country. So we don't just need to focus on what's going on in our country. We need to understand what's going on in the world overall, right? So this is some of these things that we need to watch. Other things that we need to think about that affect our buying decisions is our family, right? So if we're purchasing something that the entire family is going to use, maybe the whole family is going to be part of the decision-making process, right? Children are always part of the decision process, it seems like, because, well, they have a way of making themselves known, whether you want to know what they think or not. But, thinking about even where, and some of the hedonic purchases, where are we going to go on vacation? If you have little kids, there's certain places you're not going to go because it just doesn't work really well for little kids. So depending on where you're at, is this going to be a family purchase? Is it going to be an individual purchase, right? So if you have a retailer that's working really to work, that understands that and works well to satisfy the needs of all the family members, then that could be one way to gain a new customer long term, right? So reference groups are a huge part of the buying process, right? So when we talk about reference groups, this is a lot, that's that influencer side, right? So there are people that we look at and say, hey, I would like to be more like them, or I want to feel like they feel, or I want to, right, have that same look. So the reference group that we have affects our decision. So, and it can also be, when you think about, again, going back to vehicle purchases, if you think, I want to be known as an environmentally friendly person, you might think, well, I need to drive a Prius because it's a hybrid, or I need to drive a Tesla because it's a all electric vehicle. Right now, when you think about being environmentally friendly, you're not thinking about buying, the big Ford F-150 pickup truck because everybody thinks, oh yeah, they're gas guzzlers. But if you get the Ford Lightning, which is the all electric pickup truck, right? You're being somewhat, right, socially responsible and everything else, and but people don't think about it that way, right? Because if we think, oh, you're going to be environmentally friendly, you got to be driving you can only drive a Prius, right? So the reference groups affect our buying decisions. Our culture affects our buying process and decision. Now, when we talk about culture, right, the meaning, beliefs, morals, and values shared by members of society, one of the ways that I have described this in class is culture is really the things that we feel are so important that we teach them to the next generation. And we say, hey, this is what you need to think, this is the way you need to act. And so we teach it to the next generation. But it does come down to these same things, our beliefs, morals, and values. And so when we start thinking about these cultures and subcultures, right? How are we going to attract and really market to some of these companies and our organizations and people groups and everything else, right? So culture is a huge part of the buying process and buying decision-making process, right? So even, they mentioned employing bilingual sales associates, and depending on where you are, that might be really important, some things to do. So now the social factors, again, when we start thinking about these, all of these things are impacting the way the customer is going to go through the buying process, and you need to try and understand that. And then go back to that multi-attribute model, right, and say, okay, how are all these things affecting that customer? So we have to work a little bit backwards on that. Now, again, how do we do this? Well, one of the best ways we can do is segment our markets, because you're not going to be everything to everybody. So what we do as retailers is oftentimes we segment a market. Now, a market is a group of customers and a group of people in a certain area. That's a market. And when we talk about a segment, what we're saying is this particular group, this subgroup within this larger market are the ones that we want to target. And we target them based on needs, similar needs or values, right? Now, the internet gives us an opportunity to really target customers one-on-one. We try and get it as personal as possible, but we can't do that in a face-to-face situation. So, the goal would be to provide individual service to everybody, but you're just not going to be able to do that. So as a retailer, we do segment our markets. So how do we do that? Well, we try and create market segments, number one, that are identifiable, right? So we need to identify the customers that are we need to be able to identify them. They need to be actionable as well. We not only need to be able to identify them, we need to know what we can do to satisfy their needs. So we need to be able to come up with a plan of action to meet those needs. Now, the other thing is substantial. Now, this is one of those things you don't want to target like a market segment of 5, because it's just not going to be. Think about all the information you're going to need, all the investment you're going to need to put in just to target them, you're not going to generate sufficient products. So what you want to try and do is create a market segment that's large enough to have buying power that can help you generate more profits, right? So you want to target a segment that says they have buying power, right? They're able to make, and when we talk about substantial, the junior high, the tween group, they're a huge market segment, right? That tween group, when you're talking like, maybe 10 to 13, that group, huge buying power. They have really unique thoughts, process, the way they see the world. We can say, okay, we got to identify all these. They don't have any money, right? All their money comes from the parents. So since they don't have any money, why should we aren't really going to target them, because it's not going to help us generate more profits, right? So substantial. And reachable. In other words, we want to be able to reach them and share promotions, share advertising, so that they understand and will be able to go through the buying process and make a decision. So that's how we segment our market. Now, some ways that we can do this, some specific ways, we can do it by geographics, geographic location, maybe demographic, a geodemographic. In other words, we're going to combine the location and the demographics. Or the psychographic, which is about self-values, images, and overall values. So these are different approaches that we can use to segment our markets. Right now, part of the other things that you can do, buying situation segment. In other words, do people do fill-in shopping or weekly shopping, right? And since I personally, I work from home and everything else, I generally do fill-in shopping, where I just want to run out, and I'll run to the grocery store and just go, oh, this is what I need, right? I don't really do weekly shopping. I just go out when I need it, right? Or you can do benefit segmentation. So you group your customers that are seeking similar benefits into a segment. So there's different, again, other ways to do that. And then we also have the composite segmentation approach, where we're going to use a lot of different ways to target our customers, right? Based on lifestyle, maybe demographics, all these things. CVS, the example that we have here, targets basically 3 segments, and I'm not really sure what those mean. They have one that is known as Caroline, Vanessa, and Sophie. So based on these, they are benefits, lifestyle, and then demographics. So there's different ways to approach market segmentation. And the reason that you want to do that is that by segmenting your market, you can target specific groups, bring them in, and again, earn additional or substantially more products. So that brings us to profits. That brings us to the end of video lecture number 3. We'll see you in the next video.